Hey everyone, welcome back to Behind the Mic podcast as we continue walking through Passion Week. Let me ask you something. What makes you angry? For a lot of us, it's when something feels unfair, when someone gets hurt, when justice is ignored. But did you know that Jesus got angry too? On Monday of Passion Week, Jesus walks into the temple, he looks around, and he flips the place upside down. Why? And what does that mean for us today? Well, let's dig in. Matthew 21:12 and 13 tells us, "And Jesus entered the temple and drove out all who sold and bought in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of all who sold pigeons. And he said to them, 'It is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you make it a den of robbers.'" Imagine this. Jesus, the one we think of as gentle and kind, is flipping tables and driving people out. This wasn't a random outburst. It was righteous, controlled anger. So what made Jesus so angry? Well, the people had turned God's temple, meant to be a place of prayer and worship, into a marketplace. They were ripping people off, charging poor worshipers outrageous prices to buy animals for sacrifice. And worse, they were blocking the Gentiles, the non-Jews, from being able to pray there. Jesus saw people abusing worship and hindering others from encountering God, and he wouldn't stand for it. The temple was God's house, a holy place where people met with God. They confessed their sins, and they sought forgiveness. But the religious leaders allowed, and they profited from, turning it into a spiritual scam. Instead of being a light to the nations, they were using God's name for personal gain. And when Jesus flips the tables, he quotes Isaiah and Jeremiah, prophets who warned about corrupt religion. Isaiah 56:7 says, "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations." Jeremiah 7:11 says, "You have made it a den of robbers." Jesus' anger wasn't about hurt pride. It was about holiness. He was about protecting God's glory and people's. He was about protecting God's glory and people's access to him. And here's where it gets personal. If Jesus walked into our churches, our homes, and our lives, what would he want to flip over? Are there areas where we've turned worship into routine, going through the motions, but missing God's heart? Are there ways we hinder people from coming to God? Maybe our own hypocrisy or our own judgment or our selfishness. Are we more focused on what we can get from God instead of how we can glorify him? The truth is, we are the temple now. 1 Corinthians 6:19 says, "Do you not know that your bodies are to be king over it, who is in you, whom you have received from God?" So if Jesus is passionate about keeping the temple pure, he's passionate about cleaning house in our hearts too. Palm Sunday showed us a humble king, but Monday reminds us that Jesus is also holy, zealous, and unwilling to tolerate sin that separates us from God. So here's my challenge to you. Ask Jesus to show you if there are any tables in your life that need flipping. Anything that's keeping you from worshiping God fully or keeping others from seeing him in you. And remember, his anger wasn't to destroy, it was to restore. He wants to clear out what's broken so something better can take its place. True worship, real connection with God, freedom in his presence. Hey, thanks for joining me on today's Behind the Mic podcast. If this stirred something in you, don't just move on. Ask God to cleanse your heart and draw you closer to him. Tomorrow we're diving into Tuesday, and that's when Jesus had his final public showdown with the religious leaders. You don't want to miss it. Until then, let Jesus be king over every part of your life, even the parts that need cleaning. If this encouraged you or challenged you, like, subscribe, and share. And if you want to know how to have a real relationship with Jesus, then message me. I'd love to talk.